True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, we're diving into a bombshell development around the Alex Murdaugh case. Just when you thought we were done with that, they pulled it right back in, as kind of the saying goes. And with this development, could there be a retrial? And that's what we're finding out, because as we see the affidavit, the charging documents, the new request for a retrial documents, I guess I would say, we are finding that this Becky Hill, she authors a book. And she shared where the inspiration came from. We'll dive into it a little more deeper. But she shared how she basically wanted to write this book around the trial. But here's the thing, is that she actually plays a very important role. And so we're going to be diving into it. What role? Well, that role of what position did she have as the jury is the big deciding factor. What role does she play? We're going to be diving into that. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. The attorneys for Alex Murdaugh, they filed a motion for a new trial citing evidence of jury tampering by a court official. Now, this is a new development. This just came out today, Tuesday, September 5th. The clerk of the court, where the disgraced Low Country lawyer was tried, convicted, and even sentenced for the murders of his wife and youngest son, actively engaged in the trial process by instructing jurors that he was guilty and could not be trusted. That is what this motion for a retrial is claiming. And here's the thing, they really seem like they might have some actual evidence or something that says like this is actually happening. And so I want to share with you a little of what this is about. Now, at the same time, the retrial has not been granted. I'm going to dive into a little of what we know about this. And in this, it says defendant Richard Alexander Murdaugh, through undersigned counsel, I'm not going to go into every single bit of that part, but asked for a new trial after discovering that the clerk of court tampered with the jury by advising them not to believe Murdaugh's testimony and other evidence presented by the defense, pressuring them to reach a guilty verdict, and even misrepresenting critical and material information to the trial judge in her campaign to remove a juror that she believed to be favorable to the defense. And so that's why Alex Murdaugh's attorneys are asking for a retrial. Here is the clerk, Becky Hill. This is her first year after being nominated to serve as the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Becky Hill. It is saying in this document that she instructed jurors not to be misled by evidence presented in Mr. Murdaugh's defense. Why would she tell the jurors that anyway? She told jurors not to be fooled by Mr. Murdaugh's testimony in his own defense. And so these documents also talk about how Ms. Hill had frequent private conversations with the jury foreperson, which is a court that's appointed substitution for the foreperson the jury elected for itself at the request of Ms. Hill. And so during the trial, Ms. Hill is said to have asked jurors for their opinions about Mr. Murdaugh's guilt or innocence. Ms. Hill invented a story which is said to have lied, that she had actually lied, and then even put this in her book. She invents a story about a Facebook post to remove a juror that she believed might not vote guilty. And so she pressures the jurors to reach a quick verdict, telling them from the outset of their deliberations that it shouldn't take them long to basically find him guilty. And so the court documents are saying that Ms. Hill did these things to secure herself a book deal and media appearances that would not happen in the event of a mistrial. Now, Ms. Hill, they're saying, betrayed her oath of office for money and fame. So, of course, they want to make it sound bad, right? Like, that's kind of normal. They're going to make it sound like that, to make it sound like this girl really stepped over her boundaries. Now, let me ask you, do you think that she stepped over her boundaries? I'm going to say I think so. That's my thought process. For sure, if these are factual events, I definitely feel like she did that. And so we do know that he was indicted for the murder of his wife Maggie and his son Paul on July 14th of 2022. And his murder trial begins this year in 2023 on January 23rd. 1-2-3-2-3. And so the presiding judge was the Honorable Clifton Newman. And Clifton plays a role in her book too. So she's talking about him throughout this book. And the trial, it runs for 6 weeks, ending with convictions on the evening of March 2nd, 2023, and sentencing the following day, March 3rd, 2023. And so the state rested its case in chief, and the defense began its case on Friday, February 17th, 2023. And so court was not held 3 days later, that Monday, which was President's Day. And so after returning from the holiday, Ms. Hill began to enter the jury rooms often, almost kind of taking the lead in some cases, it seems, as to what they're sharing. And so, according to an affidavit of one of the jurors, number 630, this person was sharing this about how she started coming in and how she was, kind of entering the room on a very often basis. And so as the defense begins its case, Ms. Hill tells jurors, y'all are going to hear things that will throw you all off. Don't let this distract you or mislead you. That is where, and the affidavit of another person, juror number 741, shared about this. And so additionally, Miss Hill and one of the jurors, number 826, which was the new jury 4 person, on multiple occasions went to another room to have private conversations that would last between 5 and 10 minutes. And so why would she need to step out? What was her intent? Get more information? So this person even shared, this juror shared that sometimes they would go into the jury room's single occupancy bathroom together. That is odd. Now, the 4-person juror number 826 never said anything about the content of those conversations to any of the other jurors. And so what is going on there? Now, there was an instance where Ms. Hill even instructed jurors they could not ask 4-person juror number 826 about those one-on-one conversations. Wow. So think about that. This is where I get a little concerned that they're going to waste a lot more money for him to ultimately probably still be guilty. But right now, the fact that she was so involved and she played a critical role tells me that his defense does have a leg to stand on in reference to trying to get this retrial. I'm no attorney. I didn't sleep at a Holiday Inn Express, so I'm just giving you my thoughts on this. One of the things that I created this channel for was to give my thoughts. I like to play detective. I like to overthink things. I like to think things through. In this case, I'm trying to analyze what a person could have been thinking and what these charging documents are sharing. And so with that, we're like, why was she in this so much? Instructing them not even to ask the foreperson about the conversations. 2 days later, on Thursday, February 23rd, and continuing through the next day, Mr. Murdaugh, he testifies in his own defense. And before he began his testimony, she told jurors not to be fooled by the evidence Mr. Murdaugh's attorneys presented, which at least one juror understood to mean that Mr. Murdaugh would lie when he testified. So she's already telling you, don't pay attention. He's going to lie. That's what she is alleged to have said. And it is also said that Ms. Hill instructed the jury to watch him closely, to look at his actions, and to look at his movements, which at least one juror understood to mean that Mr. Murdaugh was guilty. Now, this is where you got to really stop and think about, like, why would she even think about doing that, right? But let me ask you this. As this person in this role, is she supposed to do that? Is she supposed to instruct them on what to look for? Let me know. Let me know in the comments if that is a thing. I don't know. Here is the attorney that I was talking about a little earlier in reference to he was the judge in this. And here she is also talking about him in her book. And we'll dive into the book a little bit as well. But she talks about him in the book. And in this, immediately after Mr. Murdaugh testified, foreperson juror number 826, he told the jury that Mr. Murdaugh was crying on cue. Like he knew when he wanted to cry to go along with his words. And so now the foreperson saying that makes sense. I can get that, right? The foreperson sharing with the jury. But that's my thought process on that. I want to hear your guys' thought process on that as well. And so Mrs. Hill criticized the former foreperson, who was juror number 589 in the documents, for handing Mr. Murdaugh a box of tissues when he was crying on the stand, because that is what the defense wants us to do. That's what Mrs. Hill was saying. So the next court day after Mr. Murdaugh's testimony, Monday, February 27th, Ms. Hill told Judge Newman about a Facebook posting that she purportedly saw on the evening of Friday, February 24th. Now, Friday, February 24th, that's the day that Mr. Murdaugh's testimony ended. That's when it was done. And while perusing a Facebook group page called Walterboro Word of Mouth, she says that she came across this Facebook post by an ex-husband of a juror. And so the post purportedly by juror number 785, ex-husband Tim Stone. Now remind you, I'm going to tell you straight out of the gate, this post came from a Timothy Stone. It wasn't the ex-husband. And this post that she did finally bring to light was not what she originally said. She says that post was taken down, but we'll dive into that a little deeper as well. And so she shares that this post, she goes to Mr. Newman, Judge Newman, about this Facebook post that she says she saw. And she says that this post was by one of the jurors' ex-husband, Tim Stone. Now, she felt like this juror was probably going to be going for the prosecution side or should I say for the defensive side. And so she wasn't too sure, and so she wanted her off of the case. And so she starts saying that, hey, her ex-husband Tim Stone allegedly stated that, and this was what she said the post was. His ex-wife was saying that she was on the jury and saying stuff about how her verdict was going to be. And so Judge Newman asked her to produce a copy of this Facebook post. And of course, she could not produce a copy. But according to her, a subordinate employee in the clerk's office, Lori Wise, is the one that discovered that the post was taken down and replaced with an apology post. Now, let me dive into this a little bit so you can see what this post looks like. So she says that this is the apology post. Let me get it. She says that this is the apology post, and because she can't find the original post, and here we are where this is the post that she says that is Timothy Stone. So this is in the charging documents. Okay, this is a Timothy Stone. The juror ex-wife says he would never go by Timothy. That, number one, is wrong. Number two, that's not Tim's face. Number three, Mrs. Hill knew what Tim looked like, so she knows that should not have been him. Number three, number four, the discrepancy on when this was posted, when she said she saw it, could not have been possible. And so, folks, I posted an ugly post yesterday, which I have deleted, and I kind of in a roundabout way directed it towards a certain person, and I would like to apologize to everyone who read it, that ugly for me, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. This was not the ex-husband of the juror, so she had nothing but a lie that she boldly tells the judge. That does not look good for her either. And so with that, it's like you got to stop and think, like, where does she really think she's going to get away with this stuff? Right? Why would she think that she is going to get away? But, at the same time, this is not the first time these things happen, right? And so she, of course, could not produce a copy. But she goes and finds that apology post. And so in her book, Behind the Doors of Justice, Timothy Stone Facebook post, she puts this in there. And she puts that the apology post states the initial post was already deleted on February 16th. So that there is no way that could have been, because the apology post states, it had already deleted on February 16th. So it would have been impossible for Miss Hill to see the original post on February 24th. So, and Mr. Stone, which is the ex-husband of juror number 785, he has in a sworn statement that he made no such post. So he signs an affidavit swearing that he has nothing to do with this. And so Mr. Murdaugh, he obtained an authentic download of the entirety of his Facebook activity from January 23rd to March 2nd, which he, of course, Mr. Murdaugh being his attorneys, and when they went through this whole Facebook activity, it would confirm that he did not post the apology. The supposed original post, if deleted, would not be recoverable at this point under Facebook retention policies, and that he is in fact never posted anything to the Walterboro Word of Mouth Facebook page during the trial. And so in another affidavit of Philip Barber, the person who made the apology post is an unrelated person also named Tim Stone, whose Facebook profile pic is not of the ex-husband of the juror. Hopefully you're staying with me. I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job of explaining that. And so Miss Hill, she questioned juror number 785 about this fictitious post on Walterboro word of mouth alone in her office. So here she is, Miss Hill, okay? Again, the court county clerk, right? She questions this juror one-on-one in the courthouse. And according to juror number 85 in an affidavit, she told juror number 85 that someone had emailed her stating her ex-husband, Tim Stone, posted on this Walterboro word of mouth. And I'm going to share with you on this that she posted on this page, that allegedly Tim Stone posted on this page and had been drinking with her ex-husband, and that while drunk, she expressed opinions on the guilt or innocence of Mr. Murdaugh. And so the juror, she says no, that never happened, and that she had not seen her ex-husband in 10 years. And so juror number 785 asked, I want to see this post, but Miss Hill would not show it to her. And so Miss Hill directly asked juror number 785 whether she was inclined to vote guilty or not guilty. She said she had not made up her mind yet. Later that day, Miss Hill told, again, juror number 785, who is Mr. Stone's ex-wife, she tells Sled and Colleton County Sheriff's Office personnel that, went to Mr. Stone's house and he confirmed that he made the post. Again, Miss Hill told juror number 785 that the police and the personnel went to Mr. Stone's house and that he confirmed he made the post. My friends, if this is all true, this court clerk boldly lied to this juror's face. And so this is said to be a fabrication by Miss Hill. This is what I don't understand. Did she really think she would get away with this? And so Miss Hill told juror number 785 that she would somehow reinstate a restraining order juror number 785 previously had against Mr. Stone, which is something that Miss Hill did not have authority to do. And so that gives you a piece of who this person is and why she thinks she can do that. And so later, of course, Judge Newman is going to examine juror number 785 regarding both this now non-existent post and this email, right? Going back and forth. And so he's going to question her about that, of course. And so he does. And juror number 785 describes her interactions with Miss Hill regarding the Facebook post. She denies making any inappropriate comments about the case to any third parties. And she stated that she wanted to hear closing arguments before forming any opinion of whether she is guilty or whether Alex is guilty or innocent in her mind. And so after she was dismissed, Judge Newman is said to have said, "Oh boy, I'm not pleased about the clerk interrogating a juror as opposed to coming to me and bringing it to me." Let's be real. That does not sound right at all, right? And so this lady is doing a lot for what it seems like to be for her book. Literally. And so the next day, March 1st, 2023, the jury, that's when they go visit Moselle, which is the site of the murders. And during this visit, the four-person juror number 826 and Miss Hill, they walked off to have yet another private conversation. In her book, Miss Hill vaguely hints at communicating her opinion on Mr. Murdaugh's guilt to the jury during the visit to the Moselle. I mean, in her book, she even states stuff that you know is going to be used against her as they move forward with this. That is without a doubt. And so in her book, Miss Hill is saying things that I am telling you, Murdaugh's attorneys went through this book. This is why this is in these documents. This is literally from the documents. And there are places in here where, where she's talking about hinting, at communicating her opinion on his guilt to the jury during this Moselle visit. And it says in this book, while the jurors viewed the Moselle property, we all could hear and see Alex's story was impossible. Some of us, either from the courthouse, law enforcement, or jury at Moselle, had an epiphany and shared our thoughts with our eyes. At that moment, many of us standing there I knew, and they knew that Alex was guilty. And she literally lays out different parts in this book. You can see the Today Show and Dateline. You can see the Valerie Barline part in this book. And there are different things that she continues to go through here. And talking about things being her trip to NBC. And the trip was extra special for me because it was my first time ever flying in an airplane. We flew from Charleston to New York City and could order whatever we wanted. I chose pretzels and a Coke to relieve some of my anxiety. And she shares more on this about, her meeting with Dateline producer. And look at right here at the beginning of chapter 12. Working with jurors is always a unique experience. And like with any jury, we had some behind the scenes happenings with our jurors, the alternates, and the originals from the Murdaugh trial. While most of the jurors were focused and engaged on the Murdaugh trial, we did have one juror who was an alternate at one point who was not. She was more focused on the crowd who was watching, who was or wasn't following Judge Newman's rules, and so on. And so you can see on where she's sharing a lot of this. And another part of it, that day, Judge Newman also held an in-camera conference regarding the tenant's co-worker email in which he decided to revisit the Facebook post issue with Miss Hill. And the judge says, okay, well, let's see what Becky says about this. He says, well, let's see what Becky is talking about. Becky Hill. And he says, I wanted to revisit the post that you mentioned yesterday. Miss Hill, right. I'll show you guys this. Right. The court. That's Becky Hill, the clerk of court. Can you tell us about that Facebook post? Miss Hill says, yes, I think it was Friday evening, just for a brief moment. I perused Facebook, got on Waterboro word of mouth, and saw where someone had said that, well, it was the ex-husband of a juror, and he said that he noticed that his ex-wife was saying that she was on the jury and saying stuff about how her verdict was going to be, and that he was the ex-husband, but she was known for talking way too much. And then I just kept on scrolling because that was enough for me. I've gotten enough. And the court says, and how did you determine who he was talking about? When I heard there was an email on Monday, I figured the two went together if it was true. The court, well, she's confirmed she has an ex-husband who she has 3 restraining orders out against. So, Miss Hill, right away, right. So then we looked on Monday after you told me to try to go back and look for it, and we couldn't find it. But then we found out his name, and we found a post and printed it out where he said that he had put something up, but that he had deleted it at the time that he had put stuff out there that wasn't nice. He said he got drunk afterwards. Something about the devil. Didn't he say it was Satan in it? And you can see the court, Mr. Meadows, Mr. Harpootlian, Miss Hill, talking about that post that I showed you. Miss Hill made, about Satan, and the court says, okay, I just wanted to have that on the record. You're reading a Facebook post by the ex-husband who said it. Of course, you haven't talked with him, so you don't know where he got his information from. Miss Hill, I don't. I can find it, though. But Miss Hill never saw any such Facebook posts. She made it up. That's what the charging documents are saying in reference to that. And that's what I mean. Like, she does not have much to stand on here, folks. Is that not an obvious thing on this? And so the next day, March 2nd, 2023, the day of the verdict, juror number 785 received a call from her ex-husband that she did not answer. The call upset her because Miss Hill's lies had led her to believe that he was posting on Facebook about her and might be stalking her. Again, she had 3 restraining orders out on him. She was already worried about him, and he was probably just calling to say something along those lines like, hey, people are asking me questions about some Facebook posts. That's exactly what it was, right? But what does she do? What does Miss Hill do? According to this, again, she's worried, right? She's like, oh my God, my husband's calling me now. And now she's thinking that Miss Hill's lies had led her to believe that he was posting on Facebook about her and might be stalking her. And so she asks to speak to Miss Hill. And so she told Miss Hill that she was scared to find all of this out. Now she's worried that he might be stalking her. You know what Miss Hill tells her? She says that the Murdaughs probably got to him, meaning her ex-husband. Yeah, saying that maybe the Murdaughs got to him. Again, what is Miss Hill saying? What is she saying? I don't understand what this lady was thinking throughout this whole thing. And this, again, by looking at what's in this, some of this literature, it does look like she was all about the clout. And so Miss Hill once again asked her opinion regarding Mr. Murdaugh's guilt. And juror number 785 told her that Creighton Waters' closing was good, but that she still had questions. And so Miss Hill asked what questions, and juror number 785 replied that she was concerned that no murder weapon was found. Miss Hill then asked, well, what makes you think he's guilty? Right? Juror number 785 said, Paul's video at the dog kennels. That is something that made her question things. Miss Hill then tells the juror that everything Mr. Murdaugh has said has been lies and that I should forget about the guns. They will never be seen again. Miss Hill is saying way too much because she then asked juror number 785 about the views of the rest of the jury, telling her that if the 4-person would just go in and ask for a raise in hands, this would be over and done with, and everyone needs to be on the same page. And so that's where it's hard to understand what she was thinking, literally. And so juror number 785, she went to the jury room, and 10 minutes later, she was excused from the jury. In open court, immediately after excusal, juror number 785 asked Judge Newman if he had spoken with the clerk of court, referring to the conversation earlier that morning with Miss Hill. And so Judge Newman responded that I have not spoken with her today, and that is totally independent of any conversation regarding her ex-husband, apparently misunderstanding her question to refer to the issue of that Facebook post. And this is where it's like there's a lot in this to even uncover, but it does not look good. Miss Hill definitely looks like she was saying too much. And I don't know if it was going to sway the jury at all, Because, when the jury began deliberations that evening, Miss Hill tells them that this shouldn't take us long. And that if they deliberated past 11, they would be taken directly to a hotel, even though none were prepared to stay overnight. And as another way to try to get them to hurry up, additionally, smokers on the jury, they asked to be allowed to take smoke breaks as they had previously been allowed to do during the 6-week trial. But Ms. Hill told them they could not smoke until deliberations were complete. And according to an affidavit by one of the jurors, jury number 326, there were 6 smokers on the jury. And so, Ms. Hill, she even told the jurors that after the trial, they would be famous and predicted that the media would request interviews with them. Ms. Hill even handed out reporters' business cards to jurors during the trial. It is so obvious that this Ms. Hill knew this is a famous case. We're about to be famous. And now she's about to be a little more famous than she probably expected, because she probably didn't think all this stuff was going to come out and it was going to become a big deal. I don't know. But she told them that. She gave them business cards. And one of the jurors, number 578, took this to heart and made an appearance on Good Morning America the night of the verdict, which is why on the day the jury began deliberations, he wore a suit coat for the first time during the trial. And after the verdict and immediately before sentencing, Ms. Hill pressured the jury to speak as a group to reporters from a network news show. And so she even traveled with jurors to New York City when they appeared on the Today Show. And she gets her book deal. Her book, Behind the Doors of Justice. And so, you really got to stop and look at, is it not obvious Behind the Doors of Justice is something that she was really going? It's that was a big deal for her, is from what I sound like, or from what it sounds like, if you ask me. And so, but it looks like this is what she was wanting as well. She already had it on the radar. Someone, she said, on vacation inspired her, and we're going to dive a little into that as well. But her efforts to promote her book shows her dishonest efforts, that her goal was to profit all along. It did not look like she was making sure a fair trial was to be had in this. That is what it looks like to me anyway, a little bit. But, a film crew even negotiated a contract with the Colleton County Sheriff's Department to use courthouse bailiffs to provide security while they filmed a documentary at the county courthouse when it was closed for Confederate Memorial Day. They have a Confederate Memorial Day on May 10th, 2023. The film crew had previously recorded in another day with an interview with Miss Hill. And so Miss Hill was really looking to do this. And there was literally one part where it was said that, she was going to, this book was going to be a spill-all book. It's literally said to have been like a spill-all book. They're going to spill the beans, basically. Hill, in her first term as the elected clerk of court, she had that front row seat for one of the most sensational crime trials ever, especially in South Carolina, because the family goes way deep in the roots. And she pens this murder trial book, Behind the Doors of Justice. And in that's where it's this was a big deal for her. She already knew early on. She already partnered with people. The photographer that I gave credit to, Melissa Gordon, who photographed that image of her right there, was someone that provided a lot of the image. So she was collecting she co-wrote this with Neil Gordon, with exclusive, never-before-seen photos with his wife, photographer Melissa Gordon, which is Melissa Gordon Photography, as well as behind the scenes courthouse images. And so this nonfiction account, this is a result of what she describes as a chance encounter with some new friends. And that's when they all, in this chance meeting, decide to do all of this. A chance meeting that begins with a selfie. In this book, a glimpse of this book, is said to, here's a little of what this book is supposed to be about. I did not read this book. So, learn about Hill's personal journey, first to become Culleton County Clerk of Court, then culminating with her reading of 4 guilty verdicts to Alex Murdaugh in front of millions of viewers. Another aspect of this book, follow Hill on her chilling visit to the crime scene at Moselle, where she looked the jurors in the eye at the moment Alex's life would change forever. That's what it's described as. And another that she describes in this book, during a flight to New York for a joint appearance on the NBC Today show, several jurors described how their site visit to Moselle was the turning point in the trial. They all reviewed the crime scene for time, distance, and perspective. Once finished, they locked eyes without having to say a word, and most knew then and there Murdaugh was guilty. That was in the book. That's about the book. Another thing, feel the eerie beauty of the 1,770-acre Moselle property and dog kennels in prose and exclusive photos. Another thing, learn about Judge Clifton Newman's grace under fire as he endured 3 personal tragedies just before sitting on the bench for the trial, and go behind closed doors to learn about his discussions of possibly stepping down from the bench. And another, learn what it was like having the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Court TV, and 50 other media outlets descend on the Mayberry-like town of Walterboro, South Carolina. And also, after the trial unfolded, Hill learned the true story of how Alex Murdaugh's then solicitor granddaddy and her granddaddy were involved in an illegal business almost 70 years ago. Again, she's saying her granddaddy, the solicitor, Alex Murdaugh's then solicitor granddaddy, knew each other and they were involved in illegal business activity together. And also, learn more about Alex Murdaugh, such as how he liked to read true crime books while in the holding cell during courtroom or lunch break. Now, this book is on Amazon. So, what do you think? Will there be a retrial? Let me know in the comments what you think. Right now, I'm thinking there might be a retrial because there's going to probably be more stuff that comes out. Maybe there won't. Maybe they'll dismiss it. Maybe it'll be done and he's out more money because his attorneys went through all this. I don't know. But at the end of the day, justice needs to continue to be served because, come on, they found him guilty. Now they're saying that there was tampering, people wanting to be famous. I don't know. But this is now a developing breaking news story. I'm Manny Rodriguez, and this has been another episode of Deep True Crime. Until next time, my friends, be safe, be careful, be aware.